One of the stories we're tracking tonight is, of course, the court appearance of a truck driver involved in the deadly Pongola crash. Sibusiso Siyaya facing a culpable homicide and negligent driving charges in connection with Friday's crash, which claimed 20 lives. The South African Transport and Allied Workers Union is calling on the Basic Education Department to launch a probe into the bakkie, which was transporting the school children. So SATAWU's Deputy Secretary General Anele Kiet joins us for more. Anele, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. No question that there has to be an investigation into why there were this number of minors in the back of a bakkie. But we can't avoid the question around the recklessness of the driving of this truck driver here.
Good evening to you and your listeners, Kathy. Indeed, you are correct. As SATAWU, we are very disappointed and saddened by the fact that young ones had to lose their lives in this fashion. And of course, we are calling upon law enforcement agencies to make sure that the driver in question gets to account for the incident that took place on Friday last week.
A part of what has emerged as we look at this case is the accountability mechanisms that are available and that are often exercised by companies that employ truck drivers when it comes to their reckless driving. Do you think we see enough of that currently?
No, in fact, it's what we've been calling for as SATAWU, that as members, as workers who are working for these truck companies, we need to make sure that the safety of our own first and the safety of our citizens is always our priority, because we understand the manner and the conditions that these workers are working under. In most cases, they are under pressure to rush for loads and so forth, but that doesn't give them a necessity to, not to be responsible on the roads. So, but of course, coming to your question, it is important that each and every incident that takes place, especially on our roads, with an understanding that there has been too much negligence on our roads, that the law enforcement agencies make sure that people are accounted fully so that we can be able to address these challenges.
And looking at the pressure that you've spoken about, which many drivers are working under, some drivers have, of course, said that one of the reasons that they're under pressure is because in some instances you have drivers that are being paid per load, especially those that are transporting coal that's needed for the power stations.
So look, that's why we always advocate that employers within the road freight industry must implement the road freight agreement, and they must implement it fully, because it deals with these issues. If you look at the road freight agreement, there is nowhere where it allows that employers must operate in that fashion, but it encourages that workers must be paid hourly, and workers must be given time to rest in between their trips, so that we can be able to avoid these issues.
But what are you finding, Anele, as a union? What is the experience of workers in the industry? So it's one thing to have these frameworks that guide what should happen, but of course it means nothing if that is not actually happening.
In most cases, companies that operate in the fashion that you are talking about, it's companies that have employed foreign nationals because they are not eager to make sure that they are in compliance with the law. And we always strive to make sure that the agents within the bargaining council, they go and enforce compliance with the main agreement in those companies.
The company that this particular truck driver worked for, what do you think should happen to that company? What should the accountability mechanism there look like?
We think as much as there was this incident, we strongly believe that because the matter is in court now, we should allow the law to take its course. But of course, we can't rest. We must also call upon the Department of Labor, the Bargaining Council, to go and investigate as to is there any contravention in terms of the laws that operate within the industry that we are talking about, so that the company can be held accountable. Because we can't continue to lose lives and then people get charged for 100,000. Well, 100,000 is nothing to these big businesses. But harsher sentences must be taken to send a strong message to employers that law is law and it needs to be complied with at all costs.
SATAWU's Deputy Secretary General Anele Kiet, let's leave it there for tonight.